Movies like to tell us that cities are grey. All too often, urban life is depicted as a world of concrete and smog. But in the 2018 film If Beale Street Could Talk, New York City is a riot of colour and warmth. Adapted from a novel by James Baldwin, Beale Street was written and directed by Barry Jenkins, who previously made the Oscar-winning movie Moonlight.
Let your head rest in my hand. Relax. I got you, I promise. I'm not gonna let you go. Hey man, I got you.
Set in 1970s Harlem, it's a romantic drama starring Kiki Lane and Stephan James. From Beale Street's very first scene, I was struck by its vibrant use of colour. Through costumes, production design, lighting and cinematography, this film welcomes us into a heightened yet immersive world. It's a perfect opportunity to discuss how costumes can play into a film's emotional tone, and how filmmakers choose to depict a highly specific place and time. Hi there, I'm Gavia Baker-Whitelaw, and this is Behind the Scenes, decoding the world of costume design. Beale Street begins with the two main characters walking together in New York. Tish and Fonnie are young lovers and lifelong friends, and from this introductory scene, we understand that they are perfectly in sync. Their outfits are unconsciously coordinated in blue and yellow, complemented by a peaceful background of green trees. We immediately sense that Tish and Fonnie have a rare and tender relationship. When chaos and violence invade their lives, it comes from an outside source. In the very next scene, we skip forward in time to see Tish visiting Fonnie in jail. We see the same blue-yellow-green colour scheme, but this time the fluorescent lighting creates a nauseous atmosphere.
Hey.
Hey.
Then in the next scene, Tish goes home and we're introduced to the fourth colour in the film's palette, a pop of red worn by her mother Sharon. These warm shades of green, yellow, blue and red recur throughout the film. They evoke the natural world, but they're also an obvious fit for the 1970s setting, when these autumnal tones were more fashionable than they are today. These colours also feel like a nostalgic callback to the style of romantic films in the 40s and 50s. The most obvious moment is a scene where Tish and Fonnie walk down the street under a red umbrella. I keep using the word warm because that really encapsulates the creative voice of director Barry Jenkins. While Beale Street is often upsetting, depicting the cruelty and racism of America's criminal justice system, it's far from being a gritty drama. Jenkins is an incredibly sensitive, thoughtful and empathetic storyteller, exploring a web of relationships between Tish and Fonnie's friends and family, showing how these characters support each other through hard times. The camera work is intimate, and the lighting is delicate and inviting. As cinematographer James Laxton put it, "When I think of love, I think of warm, lamplit spaces where families can eat around a table, whether that be Tish's mother's and father's apartment, or the family of Fonnie and Tish with Daniel, when they have a meal around their table."
Can't be. Thank you so much.
Shot in a real Brooklyn apartment, this scene uses natural sunlight. In moments like this, we see the influence of director Wong Kar-wai immersing us in an intimate mood with soft lighting and careful colour choices, feeling the texture of how people look at each other when they are in love. In my episode about Keira Knightley and historical dramas, I discussed how costumes work differently in historical settings compared to the present day. Audiences already understand modern fashion, so costume designers can express a lot of information in a modern outfit. The same can't be said of a film set in the 1800s. In my opinion, 20th century dramas fall somewhere between historical and contemporary. Viewers have a vague idea of how Western fashion evolved from the 1920s onward, but they don't necessarily understand the nuance.
What's going on with these threads, though, man?
I'm out here looking for a job, man.
I can dig it, man.
Our view of certain decades can be restrictive and inaccurate. For instance, it's not like a switch flipped in 1969, changing everyone's clothes from the swinging 60s to the 1970s. Fashion evolves gradually and at different speeds for different people. This was a notable strength in the costume design of Mad Men, which begins in 1960 and ends in 1970. In the first season, some characters resemble a stereotypical image of the previous decade, 1950s America. But over the next 10 years, their style choices change. We see a more static version of this idea in Beale Street, whose characters aren't always on the cutting edge of fashion. While the film is set in the early 70s, plenty of costumes reflect 1960s trends. This is especially obvious for Tish's mother, who's in her 40s. When she goes to Puerto Rico, she packs 2 dresses that are fully rooted in the 60s, showing a sexier side than her everyday outfits. You get the impression that she dug these out of her closet from an earlier period in her life. However, we also see elements of the 70s shining through, like Tish and her sister's natural afro hair and Bonnie's casual jackets. In real life, this was the era of Shaft, Superfly, and Starsky and Hutch. Tish and Fonny's families display a wide variety of styles. Fonny's dad works in the garment district and wears a very 1970s looking leather jacket. Meanwhile, his 2 daughters wear slightly awkward outfits, one of which looks too mature and the other looks too girlish. Fonny's mother, a devout Christian, is matronly and formal.
I just pray and I pray and I pray that the Lord will bring my boy to the light. That's all I pray for.
According to costume designer Caroline Esselin Schaefer, many of these choices came directly from James Baldwin's descriptions in the book. This includes Fonny's red and black jacket and Sharon's green dress. But Tish, the narrator, isn't really described in the novel. The filmmakers built her style around her shy, sweet-natured personality, creating a series of neat, modest looks that showcase her taste. The goal was to make her look innocent, feminine, and optimistic, represented in an outfit that combines a pale yellow skirt, sweater, and cape. When she's working at a department store, as the only black girl at the perfume counter, she dresses more formally and conservatively, in chic 1960s dresses with Audrey Hepburn hair. She also wears one of these dresses to meet Fonny's lawyer, who has a lot of power over their future. By the time she's visibly pregnant, she probably doesn't have the money for new maternity outfits, so we can guess that she's wearing hand-me-downs.
And so, I start letting out my clothes and go to work wearing dresses that fit like sex.
In these costume choices, we see how Beale Street combines historical authenticity with a more dreamlike, artistic vision, all while communicating very specific things about each character. The film's costumes were inspired by photos of Harlem in the 1960s and 70s, rooted in the characters' socio-economic background. At the same time, Beale Street's aesthetic choices create a sense of harmony that obviously wouldn't occur in real life.
But what a man wouldn't do for love, eh, Levy?
Amen.
Certain colours have certain symbolic meanings, like Tish and Fonny's coordinated outfits, and the repeated use of green, which the costume designer described as the colour of fertility and life. These visual choices illustrate Barry Jenkins' holistic approach to storytelling. Beale Street is rooted in reality, with sympathetic performances and clear political themes. But instead of filming in a documentary style, or trying to echo other films set in the 70s, Jenkins draws the audience in through clever use of colour, music, and lighting, evoking deep emotion and a sense that we're viewing everything through the lens of Tish's memory.
So
So what?
why don't you go ahead and say it?
I just know that I love you.
Thanks for watching Behind the Scenes. What's your favourite 1970s movie? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out our other episodes linked here. Hitting like on this video also helps our channel grow. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.